In this lecture, I will discuss how can we apply the formulation of canonical ensemble to the classical systems. I will give you the difference between treatment of quantum system and classical system. So, if you consider a quantum system, we are focusing on counting the number of microstates, which are actually the solution of Schrodinger equation. Okay, h cap psi r is equal to er psi r, where er is the energy eigenvalue. This psi r represents various microstates. If there is a degeneracy for a particular energy value, then we will have different number of microstates corresponding to that energy value, and for different er, sum over, if you sum the microstates for different energy values, you will get the total number of microstates. That is the procedure in quantum systems. And the average value of a quantity is given by integral 0 to infinity f of e raised to minus beta e g of e dE divided by integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e dE. Here the integration is over the variable energy, and the integration vary from 0 to infinity. Okay, it will uh, cover all the energy values starting from 0 to infinity. This denominator is called the partition function, and it is q is equal to 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e t. This is the treatment in quantum systems. Now, for classical systems, we have to deal with phase space. Okay, so here again we are going to count the number of microstates, but the number of microstates are the number of representative points in phase space. Okay, here for classical system, the number of microstates means the number of representative points in phase space. What is phase space? A space spanned by the generalized coordinate and generalized momentum. This is for a single particle in one dimension. It will have uh, one coordinate for representing the position and one for momentum. Then there will be points in the phase space. These dots represent the points, representative points in phase space. If you consider an elemental volume, the number of representative points inside this volume can be given in terms of a function known as density function, rho of qp, rho of qp. Rho of qp when multiplied with this volume element will give you the total number of representative points in that volume. That is the definition of this density of representative points. Okay, here in this quantum case, this g of t is actually the density of states. That means various energy states. Here this rho of qp is actually the density of representative points. Each of these points represent a system in the ensemble. Now we define the ensemble average of a quantity f, which is equal to integral f of qp rho of qp d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p divided by integral rho of qp d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p. This integration is over the whole volume of phase space, and this d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p represents the volume element for n particle in 3 dimension. For n particle in 3 dimension, the phase space will be 6n dimensional, and the volume element is d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p. Okay, now what is the meaning of rho of qp? Rho of qp is a measure of probability of finding a representative point in the vicinity of a phase point. What is the meaning of that? Here in this, if you consider a phase space point somewhere here, and you consider an elemental volume around that point, there are some number of points inside this volume, some representative points inside this volume. If you consider another volume of same magnitude, and you consider the representative points in that volume, then that may be different. Depending on the value of rho, that number of points may be different. So we can say that around a point here there are a large number of representative points, but around a point here there are less number of representative points. So rho of qp, rho density of points depends on the point around which you are going to calculate the number of points. Okay, നിങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ കാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിന് ചുറ്റുമുള്ള നമ്പർ ഓഫ് പോയിന്റ്സ് അല്ല ഇവിടെ ഉള്ളൂ. സോ റോ ഡിപ്പെൻഡ്സ് ഓൺ Q ആൻഡ് P. Rho of QP is a measure of probability of finding a representative point in the vicinity of a phase space point. Okay, നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഈ ഒരു പോയിന്റിന് ചുറ്റുമാണെങ്കിൽ കാണാനുള്ള സാധ്യത കൂടുതലാണ്. There are more number of representative points, but around this point, the probability of finding a representative point is less. So rho of QP is a measure of probability of finding a representative point in the vicinity of a phase space point. Now, for microcanonical ensemble, this rho of QP is a constant. For microcanonical ensemble, rho of QP is a constant. That is, if you consider two different points, if you consider the same volley around that point, the number of points will be same. Okay, in all the phase space, the density of points will be same for a microcanonical ensemble. That is, probability of finding the representative points is equal at all points. That is equal a priori probability. That is the case with the microcanonical ensemble. But for canonical ensemble, this rho of QP is proportional to e raised to minus beta h. E raised to minus beta h. Okay. Because we already mentioned in the canonical ensemble, probability of finding a system in an energy eigenvalue is proportional to e raised to minus beta er. So we can say that for the case of canonical ensemble, this density of points is actually a measure of probability. So that is also proportional to e raised to minus beta h. Okay, this h is a function of Q and B. It is the Hamiltonian of the system. Rho of QP, we can write it as some constant into e raised to minus beta h. So you substitute in this expression for f, the ensemble average of f. You can substitute for rho, then you will get an expression. Ensemble average of f is equal to integral f of QP e raised to minus beta h d omega divided by integral e raised to minus beta h d omega. The proportionality constant cancels from numerator and denominator, and this d omega is actually d raised to 3nq d raised to 3np, the volume element of phase space. The denominator integral e raised to minus beta h d omega, that is integral e raised to minus beta h d raised to 3nq d raised to 3np, is directly related to partition function, because here you can see that these are the two approaches for finding average value of f, and in the quantum systems the denominator is partition function. For classical systems the denominator is integral rho d raised to 3nq d raised to 3np. This rho is e raised to minus beta h for this classical case. So denominator is related to partition function. But to write a precise expression, we need the relationship between volume element of phase space and number of microstates. Corresponding to a particular volume of phase space, how many number of microstates are there? Consider the phase space, and if you take each point in the phase space, each point in the phase space represents a microstate, then the number of microstates will be infinity. If you consider any volume, there will be infinite number of points. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So there should be a finite volume for each microstate. Okay, for each microstate there should be a finite volume, and we already discussed that in detail, but I will give you a brief idea again. From uncertainty principle, we know that delta q delta p should be of the order of h. It is not possible to determine simultaneously the position and momentum of a particle. So there is an uncertainty of the order of h. This is the case with a single particle in one dimension. Then phase space will be two dimensional. Then for each microstate there is an uncertainty of this area. Okay, so this area is nothing but h. So we can say that for a particular microstate we need an area of h. Now for a single particle in three dimension, you will have delta q1 delta p1 and delta q2 delta p2 delta q3 delta p3. So there will be product of 3h, that is h cubed. So the volume of a single microstate will be h cubed. For n particle in 3 dimension, the volume corresponding to a single microstate will be of the order of h raised to 3n. Okay, h raised to 3n. So we can say that the number of microstates corresponding to a volume element d omega is d omega divided by h raised to 3n. This is the case with n particle system in 3 dimension. And this is for a system consisting of distinguishable particles. If the system consists of indistinguishable particles, you have to divide with an n factorial also. Okay. So number of microstates in a volume d omega is d omega divided by n factorial into h raised to 3n for a system consisting of indistinguishable particles. This also we discussed in previous lectures. Okay. So the how we introduced to the factor h raised to 3n and how we introduced to the factor n factorial we discussed in detail in previous lectures. Now we can write Qn of Vt partition function as 1 divided by n factorial h raised to 3n integral e raised to minus beta h d omega. Okay. We mentioned that this integral e raised to minus beta h d raised to 3n q d raised to 3n p is related to partition function, but it is not exactly the partition function. For that, we have to count the number of microstates in the volume d omega, and that is given by these expressions for distinguishable and indistinguishable particles. So, multiply with this factor, we will get Qn of Vt as 1 by n factorial h raised to 3n integral e raised to minus beta h d omega. This will give you the sum over all microstates instead of a volume. Okay, because this d omega volume consists of d omega divided by n factorial h raised to 3n number of microstates. Okay, this integration you should carry out over the whole volume of phase space. Then that is naturally equal to the integration over all the microstates. Okay, so this is the way in which we can formulate the theory of canonical ensemble in the case of classical systems. And now we will discuss an example, again the standard example, which is ideal gas. Consider a system of n identical monoatomic molecules confined to a space of volume V and in equilibrium at temperature T. Why we are considering monoatomic molecules? Because then we have no need to consider the vibration, rotation, etc. Okay, for a single atom, there is no possibility of vibration, rotation, etc. So we are considering just the kinetic energy. So H of Qt is equal to sigma E equal to 1 to n pi square by 2. There is no potential energy time because we are considering that the system is a non-interacting one. Okay, there is no interaction between these molecules, so we have to consider only kinetic energy. And since we are considering monoatomic molecules, there is no rotational energy, vibrational energy, etc. Okay, so Hamiltonian is sigma equal to 1 to n pi square divided by 2. What is partition function? Qn of Vt equal to 1 by n factorial h raised to 3n integral e raised to minus beta h. H becomes 1 by 2m sigma I pi square. Then d raised to 3n q. D raised to 3n q is actually dq1, dq2, etc. dq3n. So d raised to 3n q can be written as pi I equal to 1 to 3n dqi. The product of dq1, dq2, etc. Pi implies the product. Okay. Again, for d raised to 3n p, you can written like pi I equal to 1 to 3n dpi. Now, integration over q is straightforward. It will give you a v raised to 3n. If you have a single particle, it will be integral dq1, dq2, dq3. That is total volume of the container v. If you have two particles, then you will get the first integral dq1, dq2, dq3 as v. The second integral dq4, dq5, dq6 again v. So it becomes v square. So if you have n particles, then it will be naturally v raised to n. Okay, but integration over p is difficult because this also contains a function of p, e raised to minus beta by 2m sigma I pi square. So now we will proceed with a single particle case. Consider a system of one particle. Then we have the volume element dp1, dp2, dp3. Where p1, p2, p3 are its momentum along x direction, y direction, and z direction. Okay, so you consider the momentum space p1, p2, p3, and you consider a sphere of radius p. The volume of that sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube, and the surface area of the sphere is 4 pi p square. 4 pi p square multiplied with this thickness dp will give you the volume of this shell, this blue region, volume of this shell. Okay. Now you integrate the p value from 0 to infinity, you can cover the entire region of this momentum space. Okay, that is the idea. Integral 0 to infinity 4 pi p square dp will give you the whole volume of momentum space. So for a single particle, you can rewrite this integral as integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus p square divided by 2m kt into 4 pi p square dp. This 4 pi p square dp is the volume element expressed in spherical polar coordinate. Instead of Cartesian dp1, dp2, dp3, this is in spherical polar coordinates. Okay, that I will explain here. See, in x, y, z axis, if you are choosing Cartesian, the volume element is dx, dy, dz, and the integral should vary from minus infinity to infinity for all the three coordinates. This cover the entire space. In spherical polar coordinates, the coordinates are the distance from origin, that is r, and the polar angle theta and azimuthal angle phi. The volume element in spherical polar coordinate is r square sine theta dr d theta d phi. To cover the entire space, the limits should be for r it is 0 to infinity, for theta it is 0 to pi, for phi it is 0 to 2 pi. You can do the integrals of theta and phi. Integral 0 to 2 pi d phi is 2 pi. Integral 0 to pi sine theta d theta is 2. So that will give you a factor of 4 pi. Okay. Then the remaining is an integral over the variable r. So 0 to infinity 4 pi r square dr is equivalent to triple integral dx dy dz. That is the idea we used here. The triple integral over p1, p2, p3 you can convert to a single integral 0 to infinity 4 pi p square dp. And for a single particle, you can write the momentum as e raised to minus p square, where p square is p1 square plus p2 square plus p3 square. Okay, p1 square plus p2 square plus p3 square divided by 2m kt. If you do it n times for n particles, this is for a single particle, this square bracket. If you have n particle, that will be just this quantity raised to n. So this is the partition function. This is the partition function. Okay, now we can solve this integral by putting the value p divided by root 2m kt. P divided by root 2m kt as x. Okay. Then p square will be x square into 2m kt. So substitute that for p square. Then dp is root 2m kt into dx. Substitute all those values, you will get it as e raised to minus x square 4 pi into 2m kt raised to 3 by 2 into x square dx. X square dx. Okay. We have the definition of gamma function. Integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus t raised to z minus 1 dt is gamma z. In an alternate form, by putting t equal to x square, you can write it as 2 into integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus x square x raised to 2z minus 1 dx as gamma z. These two are equivalent. Just you substitute t as x square. Then we can compare these two integrals, and so this 2 you can take it to the right hand side. 0 to infinity e raised to minus x square x raised to 2z minus 1 dx is gamma z by 2. So here you have x square. That means you will get gamma 3 by 2 by 2. Okay, 2z minus 1. If it is 2z minus 1, you will get gamma z. If it is 2z minus 1 is 2z minus 1 is 2 in our case. So 2z is 3. So z is 3 by 2. So that is why this is gamma 3 by 2 by 2. So instead of this integral, you can use that gamma 3 by 2 by 2 the whole raised to n. All this factor is 4 pi raised to n will come outside, 2m kt raised to 3n by 2 will also come outside. This is the partition function. What is gamma 3 by 2? It is half gamma half, because we have an identity gamma z plus 1 is z gamma z. Okay. So it is a half gamma half. Gamma half is root pi. Root pi. This 1 by 2 raised to n will cancel. There is a 2. This 1 by 2 will make it 4. 4 raised to n will cancel with this 4 raised to n. Gamma half is root pi. So this becomes pi raised to n by 2. Here there is a pi raised to n. So that becomes pi raised to 3n by 2. Can take into the bracket. So that will be finally v raised to n by n factorial 2 pi mkt raised to 3n by 2 divided by h raised to 3. This I can write it as 1 by n factorial into v by h cube into 2 pi mkt whole raised to 3 by 2 raised to n. This is the final expression for partition function. Now, using partition function, we can calculate different thermodynamic quantities. First, we will calculate Helmholtz free energy. And we already have an equation for Helmholtz free energy in terms of partition function. It is minus kT log Q. Substitute the value of Q. So it is minus kT log 1 by n factorial e by h cube into 2 pi m kT raised to 3 by 2 all raised to n. Okay. Now log n factorial is n log n minus n. That is Stirling's approximation. So that will apply here. Then we will get minus log n plus n because it is log 1 by n factorial. Then plus this n will come to here. That is log a raised to b is b log a. So it is n log v by h cube plus 3 by 2 n log 2 pi m kt. That is nkt log n minus nkt and minus nkt log v by h cube minus this 3 by 2 I will again write it as power, then nkt log 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2. Nkt you can take it as common, then log here there is an n, here there is minus v by h cube, so that you can write it as n by v, and then that h cube you incorporate in this, that will be h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2, and this minus nkt that will contribute this minus 1. Okay, nkt is common. This is the equation for Helmholtz of free energy, and this is exactly the same result we obtained by following a different procedure. We calculated this thing in lecture number 4 for classical ideal gas. The same equation we obtained there. Okay. Now we will calculate chemical potential. Once we have Helmholtz free energy, the partial derivative with respect to n, keeping v and t, will give you this chemical potential. So it is dou by dou n of A is minus nkt plus nkt log n by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2. There are two terms. The derivative of first term will give you minus kt. The second term, it consists of this term will have a dependence of n. This term is also dependent on n. So you have to apply product rule. So first term nkt into derivative of second. What is derivative of logarithm? It is 1 divided by n by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 into function of a function. Derivative of this term, that will give you 1 by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 plus logarithm of this quantity into derivative of nkt, that will give you kt into logarithm of n by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2. This n and this n will cancel, and 1 by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 will cancel with this. So you will get it as this minus kt and this plus kt will cancel. So mu is simply kt log n by v h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2. So chemical potential is an intensive quantity. It doesn't depend on the size of the system. N by v is number density. It is independent of the size of the system. So mu is also an intensive property, but A is an extensive property due to this n. Okay. Now we will calculate pressure. It is negative derivative of A with respect to V, keeping n and t constant. So take the derivative of this quantity with respect to V. So the first term will give you 0. Second term there is only 1 v in this term. So nkt into 1 divided by n by v h square 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 into, what is the derivative of this term? It is minus n by v square. 1 by v derivative is minus 1 by v square h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2. These are all constants. This negative sign is from the definition. So This terms will cancel and you will get it as P is equal to nkt by V. This is ideal gas equation. These results we explained or we obtained already in lecture number 4 in different approach. So this is the approach using canonical ensemble. In lecture number 4 we used the treatment of microcanonical ensemble. Okay. Now we will calculate entropy. It is minus dou A by dou T at a constant n and V. So minus dou by dou T of A is minus nkt plus nkt log n by V h square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 at constant n and V. Taking derivative, this first term will give you nk because derivative is with respect to t. This negative and this negative becomes positive nk. Then the next term is minus nk. Log term you keep it as constant. Take the derivative of t. Then you will get minus nk log this term. Then minus nkt you keep it as constant. Take the derivative of this logarithmic term. That will give you 1 divided by the term into derivative of this quantity with respect to t. So n by v is constant. What is derivative of x raised to 3 by 2? It is 3 by 2 x raised to 1 by 2. Then again you have to take function of a function h square by 2 pi mk into derivative of 1 by t is minus 1 by t square. Okay. So this nk is here. This negative I absorbed in the logarithm and you take the inverse of these quantities. That is plus nk log. This n by v becomes v by n. H square by 2 pi m kt becomes 2 pi m kt by h square raised to 3 by 2. Then this negative and this negative becomes positive. There is a 3 by 2 here. 3 by 2 nkt. This n by v will cancel with this n by v. H square by 2 pi m kt raised to 3 by 2 will cancel with this raised to half. So there will be h square by 2 pi m kt in the denominator and this h square by 2 pi m k into 1 by t square. Cancel these terms again, you will get it as 3 by 2 nk. This 3 by 2 nk and this nk will give you 5 by 2 nk. So it is nk into log of v by n 2 pi m kt by h square raised to 3 by 2 plus 5 by 2. Okay, this is the equation for entropy. Again, entropy is obtained as extensive quantity. Extensive quantity. Okay, this relation we also derived earlier and we named it as Sackur-Tetrode relation. Now, for deriving another relation, we will consider first the partition function. It is q is equal to 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta er g of e dE, and log q is logarithm of integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e dE. So minus dou by dou beta of log q, that will give you minus of what is the derivative with respect to beta? It is 1 divided by integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e dE into a function of a function, that is integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e. Derivative is with respect to beta, so that will give you a minus e into g of e dE. This minus and this minus becomes plus, that will give you 0 to infinity e into e raised to minus beta e g of e dE divided by integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e dE. This is actually expectation value of E, and that is nothing but the average internal energy. So average internal energy U, you can denote it as minus dou by dou beta of logarithm of partition. Okay, here I used the expression from the quantum system, but we know that the partition function is same in both cases. Okay, so this is a relation connecting average internal energy and logarithm of partition function. So we can write it as dou by dou of beta is actually 1 by kt, and log q you can write it as minus log q. You can write it as a by kt. Okay, so that relation we can write it as u is equal to dou by dou of 1 by kt a by kt. This k you can cancel and this you can write it as dou by dou of 1 by t of a by t. This is nothing but minus t square dou by dou t of a by t. Okay, dou of 1 by t you can write it as minus 1 by t square dou t. So that will be something like this. And this is minus t square into the apply product rule, 1 by t into dou a by dou t minus t square into a into 1 by t derivative is minus 1 by t square. Okay, this this minus of dou a by dou t is nothing but s, so this will give you ts, and this is nothing but a. So u is a plus t. We already have an expression for a and s from equation 6. You have an expression for a, it is nkt log some quantity minus nkt. From equation 9 you have s, multiplied this s with the t, you will get again nkt log the quantity, then 5 by 2 nkt. So adding those two, a plus ts, a plus ts will give you 3 by 2 nkt. Okay, just to substitute for a and s from equation 6 and 9, you will get u is equal to 3 by 2 nkt. U is equal to 3 by 2 nkt. Now we will derive a relation between n particle partition function and a single particle partition function. Q1Vt represents the partition function of a system which consists of a single particle. QnVt is the partition function of a system which consists of n particles. These are related as Qn of Vt equal to 1 by n factorial Q1 of Vt raised to n. This equation, this form we can infer from equation 5. What is equation 5? It is Qn of Vt is 1 by n factorial into some quantity raised to n. Okay. From this equation, we can assume a form or a relation like this. So, Q1 of Vt is the single particle partition function, Qn of Vt is the n particle partition function. We can write a relation like this as a consequence of the fact that our system consists of non-interacting particles. What is the significance of this non-interacting case? Consider a simple example. Suppose you have a single particle and two possible energy levels. That particle can take either one of these energy levels. Then what is partition function? It is sigma r e raised to minus beta er. Here e can have two values. So e raised to minus beta e1 plus e raised to minus beta e2. This is the partition function. Suppose now you have two particles. Then what are the possible ways in which that two particles can situate in these energy levels? One possibility is both the particle can sit in this level. So that will have a total energy of E2 plus E2, 2E2. Other possibility is these two particles can sit in the top level. That will give you E1 plus E1, total energy 2E1. Or one particle can sit here and the other particle can sit here. That will give you a probability of E1 plus E2. If the particles are distinguishable, it can sit into opposite way also. Then it will be E2 plus E1. So these are the four possible energy levels of this two particle system. Okay, for as the number of particle increases, the possible energy values will also change. For a single particle, the possible energies are E1 and E2. For two particles, there is no energy like E1. Okay, the energies are either 2E1 or 2E2 or E1 plus E2. So partition function is e raised to minus beta 2E1 plus e raised to minus beta 2E2 and e raised to minus beta E1 plus E2. That will come twice. So this is, I can write it as e raised to minus beta E1 plus e raised to minus beta E2 whole square. So that is nothing but Q1 square. So Q2, two particle partition function is single particle partition function square. Suppose there is interaction between particle 1 and particle 2. Then beyond this energy E1 plus E1, E2 plus E2, there will be some interaction term E1, 2. Okay, there will be some interaction term like E1. So this will not be like this in the case of interacting systems. Okay, so if there is interaction, this is not possible to write Q2 as Q1 square. So as a consequence of the non-interacting assumption, we can write n particle partition function as this. Okay. Now for ideal gas, we have the density of states G of E is dou by dou E of sigma. This relation we wrote in lecture number 3. That is the case of ideal gas calculation of microstates. Sigma denotes the number of microstates for the system whose energy varies from 0 to E. 0 to E. Okay. Then taking derivative with respect to E, you will get the number of microstates per unit energy. That is the density of states, and that is given by this equation. Uh, in lecture number 3, we calculated sigma value as this one. You take the derivative. There is a 1 by n factorial extra, and this is the Gibbs correction factor. Okay, Gibbs correction factor for indistinguishable particles. Okay, including that, you will get the density of states like this. Now, partition function you can calculate for n particle system, and it is nothing but Laplace transform 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e d. Substitute for g of e, substitute for g of e. Take constants outside, and integral becomes 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e raised to 3n by 2 minus 1 d. We have the definition of gamma function 0 to infinity e raised to minus t raised to z minus 1 dt as gamma z. Put beta e equal to t, then e becomes t by beta. So this becomes t raised to 3n by 2 minus 1 by beta raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. E raised to minus t dt by beta. This beta raised to 3n minus 1 and beta will become beta raised to 3n by 2, and that is nothing but kt raised to 3n by 2. So that will come here, pi m kt raised to 3n. The remaining is integral 0 to infinity e raised to minus t raised to 3n by 2 minus 1 dt. Comparing with this, you can write it as gamma 3n by 2. Gamma 3n by 2. Gamma 3n by 2 is nothing but 3n by 2 minus 1 factorial. So this will cancel, and you will get qn of beta as 1 by n factorial v by h cube raised to n 2 pi m kt raised to 3n by 2. This is n particle partition function because we started with the n particle density of states. Now, if you consider a one particle system, density of states is in terms of momentum. I can write it as g of p dp. It is the number of microstates having momentum between p and p plus dp. It is d by dp of sigma of p, where sigma of p is the number of states whose momentum lies between 0 and p. 0 and p. So that is nothing but 1 by h cube. 1 by h cube is the finite volume of a microstate in phase space for one particle system. 1 by h cube. V is the contribution from the coordinates, and momentum, the volume is 4 by 3 pi p cube. Okay, momentum space, the volume 0 to p. It is the volume of a sphere of radius p, and it is 4 by 3 pi p cube. If you take the derivative with respect to p, you will get it as v by h cube 4 pi p square dp. This is density of states in terms of momentum. In terms of energy, you can write it as substitute p cube as root 2me whole cube, that is 2me raised to 3 by 2. Taking derivative with respect to e, you will get it as 2 pi v by h cube 2m raised to 3 by 2 e raised to half d. You can calculate single particle partition function q1 of beta 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e g of e d. Substitute here 0 to infinity e raised to minus beta e raised to half d. Again put beta e equal to t and solve. You will get it as v by h cube 2 pi m by beta whole raised to 3 by 2. Okay, this is single particle partition function because we started with the single particle density of states. In here we started with the n particle density of states and calculated the n particle partition function. What is the relation between these two? We can write qn of Vt as 1 by n factorial into q1 of beta raised to n. Because q1 of beta we obtained this equation. So this is the relation. This is a very important relation. One particle partition function is q1 of Vt, then n particle partition function for a system consisting of non-interacting indistinguishable particle. It is 1 by n factorial q1 raised to n. If it is distinguishable particles, there is no need to write this 1 by n. Now, the important part is finding density of states. Given here we calculated, given density of states, we calculated partition function. Given density of states, we calculated partition function. We will do the inverse. Finding density of states using partition function. Okay, in some cases, the partition function may be known, then we can calculate the density of states. You take the inverse Laplace transform. And this equation is known as Bromwich integral. Bromwich integral. It is g of e equal to 1 by 2 pi I integral beta prime minus I infinity to beta prime plus I infinity q of beta e raised to minus beta e d beta. Beta prime greater than 0. Beta prime is the real part of beta. Now this g of e is equal to 1 by 2 pi I. Substitute for q of beta and take the constants outside. B raised to n by n factorial 2 pi m raised to 3n by 2 by x square raised to 3n by 2. Integral beta prime minus I infinity to beta prime plus I infinity e raised to beta I, and this kt is nothing but 1 by beta, so 1 by beta raised to 3n by 2, that is. For doing this, we can use contour integration method, and we will split two different cases. First, we will consider the case with e less than 0. Okay, e less than 0. Then choose the contour as shown here. This is the complex beta plane, and this is imaginary axis. This point is iy, this point is minus iy. This is the point beta prime. I take it as positive because it is marked in the right side of origin. Beta prime is positive. Our integral is from beta prime minus iy to beta prime plus iy in the limit y tends to infinity. Okay, you have to take the integral from beta prime minus I infinity to beta prime plus I infinity. That I can say that it is from beta prime minus iy to beta prime plus iy in the limit y tends to infinity. So this integration should be along this line. And using the method of complex integration, you need a closed contour. You need a closed contour. I have two options: either close this way or close in the opposite way. Why I closed it in this way? Because here I consider the case e less than 0. That is, e is negative. If I close it in the left side, beta will also be negative and beta e becomes positive, and in the limit beta tends to infinity, this will diverge. This will diverge. Integrand will diverge. But if we close it in the right side, beta will be positive. So when you take this y tends to infinity, it will cover the entire region, but it will this beta e will be negative. This beta e will be negative because e is less than 0. Beta is positive, and it will go to 0. It will not diverge. That is why we close it in the right side. This is our closed contour. This is our integrand. Is there any singularity inside this contour? The singularity is that beta is equal to 0. When beta is 0, this will diverge. Beta is 0 is outside the contour, so there is no singularity inside. So Cauchy residue theorem says that closed integral f of z dz is 2 pi I into residue at singularities, but no singularity. So that means residue is 0. So the closed integral answer is 0. Closed integral answer is 0. But what about this integral? This integral is closed integral minus this one, or this straight line integral plus this semicircle will give you closed integral. But in the limit y tends to infinity, we can show that this semicircle contribution will vanish. In the limit y tends to infinity, this semicircle contribution will vanish, and we can say that integral beta prime minus I infinity to beta prime plus I infinity e raised to beta e divided by beta raised to 3n by 2 is 1 by 2 pi I into residue, and that is nothing but 0. So for energy less than 0, you obtained the value as 0. Now for energy greater than 0, again we will split into two cases. One is for even n. For even n, we have in the integrand there is beta raised to 3n by 2. For even n, we will consider first. Choose a contour as shown. This is the contour. So here we closed it in the left side because we are considering e greater than 0. In the left side, beta will be negative. So beta e will be negative, and so this will converge. Okay, this will not diverge. But if you close in the right side, that will diverge. This will diverge. Now, this is the contour. Again, this is your Cauchy integral formula for derivatives. 1 by 2 pi I closed integral f of z dz by z minus z naught raised to n plus 1 equal to f raised to n z naught by n factorial. In our case, f of z is e raised to beta e, z naught is 0, n plus 1 is 3n by 2. So this integral become 1 by 2 pi I closed integral e raised to beta e by beta raised to 3n by 2 d beta equal to Right hand side will be, so this one, f raised to n z naught. What is f raised to n z naught? Taking n derivatives. Here you have to take 3n by 2 minus 1 derivatives, because when your equation this denominator is n plus 1, you have to take n derivatives. So when your denominator is 3n by 2, you have to take 3n by 2 minus 1 derivatives. Each derivative will give you, you have to take the derivative of e raised to beta e. One times if you take derivative, you will get e into e raised to beta e. Two times e square into e raised to minus beta e. So 3n by 2 minus 1 times, that will give you e raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. Finally, you will put z naught, that is 0. So e raised to 0 is 1. That is why the numerator is like this. Denominator is n factorial, that is 3n by 2 minus 1. So this is the answer for this in the case with e greater than 0 and even n. Even n. Okay. Again, we can show that this is the answer for this closed contour. In the limit y tends to infinity, the contribution from this semicircle will vanish. So we can say that the closed contour answer is same as this straight line integral. Now, for e greater than 0, when n is odd, what is the problem with the odd n? When n is odd, beta raised to 3 by 2 or beta raised to some fraction. n 3 I can beta raised to 9 by 2. When n is equal to 5, it is beta raised to 15 by 2. So, this will become a fraction, and beta is equal to 0 will be a branch point. Beta is equal to 0 will be a branch point. Whenever this z raised to some fraction, then z equal to 0 is known as a branch point. So, we will consider the contour like this. We have to avoid this branch point, z equal to 0, beta equal to 0 here. So, our contour will be like this. Now, inside this contour, there is no singularity. The only singularity is beta is equal to 0, and that is a branch point, and that is now outside. So, there is no singularity inside. Closed contour answer is 0. Closed contour answer is 0. Again, in the limit y tends to infinity, the contribution from this outer, this arc will become 0. But there is a one contribution from here. So we can see that this contribution plus this straight line is 0. That means this straight line contribution is negative of contribution from these two linear segments. Negative of contribution from these two linear segments. Instead of writing this negative, what I will do is I will reverse the direction. Here it is in this way, I will reverse the direction in this way. Okay, so I can say that integral beta prime minus I infinity to beta prime plus I infinity e raised to beta e by beta raised to 3n by 2 d beta is c e raised to beta e beta raised to 3n by 2 d beta. This is c. Now we will do integration by parts. Integration by parts. First function e raised to beta e into integral of second minus integral of derivative of first e into e raised to beta e into integral of second. Now, at the boundary, this curve starts from minus infinity on the lower side, and it will go like this and again go to minus infinity. So, the boundaries are minus infinity. So, when you put beta equal to minus infinity, this will vanish. So, boundary term will vanish. This negative you can take into the inside, and it becomes 3n by 2 minus 1. So, e divided by 3n by 2 minus 1 will come outside. So, integral c e raised to beta e divided by beta raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. Again, continue like this. You will get again more and more is on the numerator. Denominator will become 3n by 2 minus 1, 3n by 2 minus 2, etc. up to half. Up to when denominator is half, the integral will be c e raised to beta e divided by beta raised to half d beta. Because when you have 3n by 2 minus 1 here, this is beta raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. So when you reach here as half, it will be beta raised to half. How many e's will be there? How many e's will be there? When you do one integration by parts, denominator is 3n by 2 minus 1. When you do two integration by parts, denominator is 3n by 2 minus 2. So last term is half. That means 3n by 2 minus 3n by 2 minus half. Then only you will get half. So first here it is 1, second here it is 2. So 3n by 2 minus half means it is 3n by 2 minus half the integration by parts. So that many e's will be there. So e raised to 3n by 2 minus half is the numerator. Denominator is 3n by 2 minus 1, 3n by 2 minus 2, etc. up to half. Then the last one is integral e raised to beta e divided by beta raised to half. Now we want to calculate this integral. For that, you put beta raised to half as I gamma. Beta raised to half as I gamma. Then what will be beta? It will be minus gamma square. What will be d beta? It will be minus 2 gamma d gamma. Minus 2 gamma d gamma. Now, this is our contour C. Okay, it has two straight line segments and then small circular portion. Now, what is the face? What is the face? Actually, our original integral, our original integral, our original contour starts from this beta prime. Beta prime is the center, and you go up to here, and then come like this. So when you start from here, this point is theta is equal to pi by 2. When you reach here, theta is equal to pi. Then you go along this line and you circle this origin. So that will give a 2 pi angle. So here theta will be 3 pi. Okay. So when you start from here, this is theta equal to pi by 2. You reach here, that will be theta is equal to pi, theta equal to pi, and then along this line theta is again, it is always pi. When you encircle this origin through a closed loop, the 2 pi angle will increase, so this pi becomes 3 pi. So that is on the lower line, the phase angle is 3 pi. So I can write beta as magnitude beta into e raised to I 3 pi. So I gamma is beta raised to half, that I can write it as mod beta raised to half into e raised to I 3 pi by 2. Okay, because beta is mod beta e raised to I 3 pi. So beta raised to half is mod beta raised to half e raised to I 3 pi by 2. E raised to I 3 pi by 2 is minus I. This I and I will cancel. Gamma is minus mod beta raised to half. When beta tends to minus infinity, that's limit, beta tends to minus infinity. What is magnitude beta? That will be infinity. Magnitude beta is always positive. That will be infinity. And gamma is minus infinity. Magnitude beta infinity, the gamma is minus infinity. Okay, so on this lower line, your limit of gamma should be minus infinity to 0. Minus infinity to 0. What about the upper line? On the upper line, beta is mod beta e raised to I pi. That is I gamma is beta raised to half becomes mod beta raised to half into e raised to I pi by 2. E raised to I pi by 2 is I. That I will cancel with this I. So gamma is mod beta raised to half. So in this line, minus infinity, beta minus infinity means mod beta is infinity, and that is gamma is equal to plus. So this integration 0 to minus infinity becomes 0 to infinity in terms of gamma. Okay, so this is a very important point to identify the phase. On the upper line, it is theta is equal to pi. On the lower line, it rounds an angle of a complete circle, so it will increase the angle by 2 pi. And the lower line will have a phase of 3 pi. So substitute all the values. Limits are minus infinity to 0. E raised to minus beta becomes gamma square. E divided by beta raised to half is I gamma. D beta is minus 2 gamma d gamma. Plus on the upper line, 0 to infinity e raised to minus gamma square e by I gamma minus 2 gamma d gamma. Again, we can prove that this contribution from this circle which encloses just the origin, will be 0. So 1 by 2 pi I integral c e raised to beta e beta raised to half d beta e is 1 by 2 pi I integral minus infinity to plus infinity. This is minus infinity to 0, then 0 to infinity. So we can add these two. Integrands are same. So minus infinity to plus infinity e raised to minus gamma square e by I minus 2 d gamma. 2i multiplied with this I will give you minus 2. That will cancel with this minus 2. So 1 by pi integral minus infinity to infinity e raised to minus gamma square e d gamma. 1 by pi integral minus infinity to infinity e raised to minus y square. By putting gamma root e equal to y, this becomes e raised to minus y square dy by root e. E raised to minus y square dy from minus infinity to infinity is nothing but root pi. There is a root e in the denominator, so that becomes root pi by e. This pi and this root pi will cancel and you will get 1 by root pi e. So we already have this much times here, this much time. The answer for this integral multiplied with 1 by 2 pi I, that is 1 by root pi I. So you have to add these terms also. E raised to 3n by 2 minus half divided by 3n by 2 minus 1 up to half into 1 by root pi I. This root e in the denominator will become e raised to minus half, that will come to here, and e raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. Denominator is 3n by 2 minus 1 up to half into root pi. Root pi is actually gamma half. You have this identity. 3 by 2 factorial is gamma 5 by 2. It is 3 by 2 into 1 by 2 into gamma 1 by 2. Gamma 1 by 2 is root pi. So 3 by 2 factorial is 3 by 2 into 1 by 2 into root pi. Similarly, 5 by 2 factorial is 5 by 2 into 3 by 2 into 1 by 2 into root pi. So 3n by 2 minus 1 up to root pi. That is nothing but 3n by 2 minus 1 factorial. This is the answer. So for n equal to odd, this is a lengthy procedure, but still the answer is same as the case with n equal to even. Okay, in both cases the answer is same, but the procedure is entirely different. So for e greater than 0, we can write g of e as v raised to n by n factorial 2 pi m by s square raised to 3n by 2 into the answer we obtained here, e raised to 3n by 2 minus 1 by 3n by 2 minus 1. For energy less than 0, density of states is 0. That is, we can plot a graph. For energy less than 0, this is 0, the red line. Then energy, as energy increases, it increases. Not linearly, it increases as e raised to 3n by 2 minus 1. The point is, at e equal to 0, this density of states is 0. Okay? This g of v starts increasing from 0, and depending on the value of n, the nature will be different. It is not linear. I just wanted to show you that the curve is continuous at e equal to 0. Therefore, we can say that for energy E less than or equal to 0, less than or equal to 0, density of states is 0. For E greater than 0, density of states is this. This expression is exactly the same we obtained earlier, or we write earlier for the case of ideal gas. This is the expression that we obtained here, but now we derived it from partition. We derived it from partition. Okay, so this is the way in which we can find the density of states once partition function is given. Thank you.